3 days after their son Tommy vanished into forest, Sarah and Michael began noticing a German shepherd standing purposefully by their living room window, as if trying to communicate. Welcome to Mr. Bryan's Tale, where every story takes you on an unforgettable journey. Whether it's thrilling adventures, heartwarming moments, or tales that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, this is your destination for captivating storytelling. If you love getting lost in exciting narratives and discovering new worlds with every video, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, so you never miss out on the next amazing tale. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. The morning sun filtered through the towering pines of Redwood Falls, but inside the Mitchell home, darkness had settled like a thick fog. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her coffee growing cold as she stared blankly at the forest beyond their backyard. Michael paced relentlessly, his phone pressed to his ear for the 100th time that morning. "They're scaling back tomorrow," he finally said, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "The search coordinator says they've covered every accessible trail within a 5-mile radius." 3 days had passed since Tommy disappeared. He'd been playing basketball in their backyard, right next to the fence that bordered the vast Cascade Wilderness. Sarah had stepped inside for just 10 minutes. 10 minutes to answer a work email, and when she returned, only silence greeted her. The basketball lay abandoned near the open garden gate, and small footprints led toward the tree line before vanishing completely. The search teams had been thorough. Volunteers combed every marked trail, calling Tommy's name until their voices grew hoarse. Search dogs picked up his scent but lost it mysteriously at Miller's Creek, as if he'd simply evaporated. News stations ran his photo constantly, a bright-eyed 7-year-old with a gap-toothed smile and a redneck cap he wore everywhere. But the forest, ancient, dense, and unforgiving, kept its secrets locked away. And with each passing hour, hope grew thinner than the morning mist rising from the pine needles. A sharp, purposeful bark shattered the heavy silence. Both Sarah and Michael jumped, their grief momentarily suspended by surprise. On the porch, barely 3 feet from their living room window, sat a German shepherd unlike any they'd seen in their neighborhood. The dog wasn't aggressive or frantic. It simply waited, ears perked forward with laser focus, eyes fixed on them with intensity that made Sarah's skin prickle. There was something different about this animal, an intelligence that seemed almost human, a purposefulness that transcended normal canine behavior. "Michael, come here." Slowly, Sarah whispered, rising from her chair. The shepherd barked again. 3 times. Deliberate, urgent, measured. Each bark felt like a word in a language they didn't quite speak, but somehow understood. Then, as if satisfied it had their attention, the dog stood and trotted confidently to the edge of their yard. It paused at the tree line, turned its broad head back toward them, and fixed them with an expectant gaze. The message was unmistakable. "Follow me." That's not normal dog behavior," Michael said quietly. "No, it's not," Sarah agreed, her heart suddenly pounding. "Michael, what if—" She couldn't finish the sentence. The possibility was too fragile, too desperate to speak aloud. But they both felt it. This wasn't random. This dog had purpose. And in their desperation, purpose was all they had left to cling to. The German shepherd barked once more, then disappeared into the forest. The next morning, the shepherd returned at dawn, its routine identical. Bark, wait, walk toward the forest, pause, look back. This time, Sarah grabbed her phone to record the behavior. The dog's pattern was too deliberate, too consistent to ignore. "We should follow him," she said, her voice steady despite the wild beating of her heart. Michael hesitated, weighing the absurdity of following a strange dog into the wilderness against the crushing reality that their son was still missing and every conventional approach had failed. "Okay," he finally agreed, "but we tell someone where we're going and I'm marking our trail." They stepped off the porch and into the unknown. The German shepherd led them with remarkable precision, pausing frequently to ensure they were still following. It navigated through dense groves of ancient pine, across shallow creeks that weren't on any map, and up steep, fern-covered hills that seemed untouched by human feet. Michael tied orange tape to tree branches every 100 yards, creating a breadcrumb trail back to civilization. The dog never rushed, but never wavered. It moved with the confidence of something following a known path, occasionally stopping to sniff the air or listen before continuing. An hour passed, then another. Sarah's legs ached, her sensible shoes soaked through from creek crossings, but she pushed forward. Then, through a break in the trees, they saw it, a small ruined cabin, its weatherwood barely distinguishing it from the forest itself. The German shepherd sat at its threshold and waited. The cabin door hung crooked on rusted hinges. Inside, dust motes danced in shafts of light piercing through gaps in the roof. Furniture sat covered in years of forest debris. A table with 3 legs, a chair tipped on its side, a fireplace filled with dead leaves and bird nests. But on the floor, impossibly bright against the decay, lay Tommy's red knit cap. Sarah's knees nearly buckled. She rushed forward, grabbing the small hat and pressing it to her face, breathing deeply for any trace of her son. It smelled of pine needles and earth, but underneath, yes, underneath, there was still a hint of Tommy's shampoo, his little boy scent. "He was here," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, he was here." While Sarah clutched the cap like a lifeline, Michael explored the cabin with shaking hands. Most items were too degraded to identify, but wedged between floorboards near the window, he found something remarkable. A black and white photograph, surprisingly well preserved, showing a man standing in front of this very cabin. The man wore clothes from another era, 1940s, maybe early 50s, but his features, the shape of his face, the set of his eyes, they were unmistakably familiar. Michael held the photo up to Sarah. "That looks like..." Sarah began, her mind racing. Then it clicked. Theodore Harrison, my great-great-great-uncle, the one who disappeared. The family story she'd heard only once, dismissed as myth, suddenly felt terrifyingly real. Sheriff Patterson listened to their story with barely concealed skepticism, but when they produced Tommy's cap and the GPS coordinates Michael had recorded, his expression shifted. Within 2 hours, deputies hiked to the cabin, confirming everything the Mitchells had reported. The forensic team found more than just Tommy's cap. Fresh footprints, adult and child size, marked the soft earth outside. Inside, they discovered a granola bar wrapper with a brand currently sold at the Redwood Falls General Store. Someone had been there recently, and they'd had Tommy with them. "This cabin isn't in any county records," Patterson said, reviewing his tablet. "It's completely off the books." Sarah contacted Agnes Hartley, Redwood Falls' unofficial historian, a sharp-eyed woman in her 70s who remembered everything about everyone. Agnes arrived at the Mitchell home within the hour, spreading yellow documents across their dining table. "Theodore Harrison," Agnes confirmed, tapping a faded newspaper clipping from 1952. "Vanished without a trace. Folks said he was peculiar, spent more time with animals than people, especially dogs." She looked up meaningfully. Local stories claimed he could communicate with them in ways nobody else could. Not training, actual communication. People thought he'd gone feral, joined the wolves, that sort of folklore. She pushed a brittle photograph across the table. The same man from the cabin, surrounded by 5 German shepherds, all watching with the same intense, intelligent gaze the Mitchells had seen in their mysterious guide. "Your family's always had a strange relationship with these woods. Sarah," that evening, just as darkness swallowed the forest, the German shepherd returned. But everything about his demeanor had changed. The dog didn't sit calmly at the window this time. It paced back and forth across their porch, occasionally rising on hind legs to scratch at the glass. Its body was tense, every muscle coiled with urgency. It vocalized, not barks exactly, but something between a whine and a howl, a sound that raised the hair on Sarah's arms. "Something's wrong," she said, already grabbing her jacket. "It's different. We need to go now. Sarah, it's dark. We can barely see our own driveway, let alone navigate miles of..." "Now, Michael." Her voice cracked with an authority born of maternal instinct. "If this dog thinks we need to go now, we go now." Michael grabbed flashlights, his phone, and the orange tape, while Sarah pulled on hiking boots. The moment they stepped outside, the shepherd took off at a faster pace than before, forcing them into a near jog to keep up. Their flashlight beams cut narrow tunnels through absolute darkness. The forest at night was a different creature entirely, alive with sounds, movements in peripheral vision, eyes reflecting their lights. Michael tried to mark trees, but the pace made it difficult. They stumbled over roots, splashed through a creek, without bothering to find stepping stones. The shepherd led them onto unmarked trails, through terrain they hadn't covered that morning. This was a different destination, and judging by the dogs' urgency, they were running out of time. After 45 minutes of grueling hiking, they emerged into a clearing so perfectly circular it seemed deliberately crafted. Ancient cedar trees formed a natural cathedral, their branches interlocking overhead like protective fingers. And in the center, impossibly hidden from the outside world, glowed a small camp. Firelight flickered from a central pit. Several modest structures, not quite cabins, more like elevated shelters, dotted the perimeter, built in harmony with the surrounding trees rather than in opposition to them. Sarah could make out gardens, tools, and what appeared to be animal enclosures in the shadows. A man stepped forward into firelight, and Sarah's breath caught. He was perhaps in his 50s, whether by outdoor life, but his features were unmistakable. The same bone structure, the same eyes she saw in her own mirror every morning. He looked like he could be her uncle, her cousin, her brother from another timeline. Sarah Brennan Mitchell, he said, not as a question but as a statement of fact. His voice was calm, educated, not at all what she expected from someone living hidden in the wilderness. I've been waiting for you. I'm David Harrison. Behind him, a young woman emerged mid-20s with similar features. I'm Rebecca, she said gently, and we have someone who's been asking about you. From one of the shelters, a small figure appeared, limping slightly but alive, safe and smiling. Mom? Dad? Tommy. Sarah collapsed to her knees as Tommy rushed into her arms. She held him so tightly she feared she might break him, but she couldn't let go, couldn't convince her body that he was real and solid and alive. Michael wrapped his arms around both of them, and for a long moment, the only sound was Sarah's sobbing relief. He's okay, Rebecca said softly. We found him 4 days ago, near the old Miller's Creek crossing. He'd fallen, twisted his ankle badly, and was disoriented. We brought him here to care for him. Why didn't you? Michael started, anger and gratitude warring in his voice. We live apart from Redwood Falls by choice, David interrupted gently. Coming into town would expose us, and we're not ready for that. But we couldn't let him suffer, either. We've been preparing to bring him back, trying to figure out the right way. Tommy, nestled in his mother's arms, explained how Rebecca had found him, how they'd wrapped his ankle, fed him, taught him about the forest plants and animals. Other children emerged from the shadows, 3 more, ranging from ages 5 to 12, living here with their families. David gestured for them to sit by the fire. The Harrison family never completely left these woods, he began. Theodore didn't disappear. He chose this. We've been here for generations, protecting the old growth, documenting wildlife, preserving traditions that the modern world forgot. He paused, meeting Sarah's eyes. And we've always had the dogs. The German shepherd, whose name they learned was Scout, sat proudly near the fire as David explained their philosophy. Dogs weren't just companions here. They were considered sacred guardians of the forest, indicators of ecosystem health, communicators between the human and natural worlds. We train them, yes, but we also listen to them, Rebecca said. Scout knew you were Tommy's family. He knew you needed to be here, that you could be trusted. He chose to guide you. David's terms were simple. They could take Tommy home, but the Harrison community's existence must remain secret. Development interests, government agencies, even well-meaning environmentalists would destroy the delicate balance they'd maintained for decades. Sarah agreed without hesitation. As a symbol of her promise, David gave her a small, smooth stone marked with an ancient symbol. Leave this at Theodore's cabin, he instructed. It tells us you understand that you're family. The walk back was slower, gentler. Scout accompanied them all the way to their property line, then sat and watched as they crossed into their yard. When Sarah turned to thank him, he'd already vanished silently into the darkness. Weeks passed. Tommy healed, but something had changed in him. An awareness, a reverence for the forest he'd never had before. Then one morning, Sarah spotted another young German shepherd at the tree line, watching them with familiar intelligence. Not Scout, but a new guardian, a new generation. Family, Sarah understood now, took many forms, and the forest had found them worthy of its trust. Sometimes being lost was the only way to find where you truly belonged. And that's where Sarah and Michael's incredible journey led them. From the depths of despair to a discovery that changed their understanding of family, nature, and the hidden world existing right at the edge of their own backyard. Tommy came home safe, but he brought with him a secret that connected the Mitchells to something far greater than themselves. What would you have done if a mysterious dog appeared at your window after your child went missing? Would you have followed it into the unknown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your perspectives on these amazing stories. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Brian's Tale for more incredible, emotional, and mysterious stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, sometimes the most extraordinary answers come from the most unexpected places. This is Mr. Brian's Tale, and I'll see you in the next story.